If you're a writer, a student, or someone who spends hours writing or solving problems, there's probably a really good chance that you've been getting neck and shoulder pain. And there's a reason for that. When you spend hours reading, your neck's put into an unnatural position, causing aches and pains to the muscles and to your spine. But here's the good news. Small adjustments can make a massive difference to your pain and how you feel. So let's get into those right now. First, let's get into the problem. Why do writing and reading and studying cause so much pain? Well, the issue comes down to posture. Research shows that when you tilt your head forward, it increases the weight dramatically going down into your neck. In fact, for every 15 degrees forwards, it can increase the weight of your head on your neck by about 27 pounds. Now, our head is really heavy. It weighs as much as 9 or 10 pounds. That's a lot of weight on top of quite a thin little piece of spine. And that's why students and writers who spend hours hunched over their work often experience neck pain, and not just that, shoulder pain, back pain too. And it gets worse. One study showed that after just 30 minutes of sitting, reading and writing, that the pain increases considerably. So if you're reading and writing for long periods of time without taking breaks, without having the good posture, and without getting movement in there, you're just asking for trouble. So what can you do about it? Well, let's take it step by step. Step 1, keeping your neck in a nice neutral position. There are many ways to go about this. You can learn techniques like the Alexander technique, which will teach you to be body aware and have a nice released head, neck and back while you're sitting and working. Or you can do the simplest thing of all, which is simply to raise the height of the thing that you're reading. So a goal here is simple, just reduce the time spent with your neck bending forwards to either read or to write. And there are several ways. The easiest way, raise your work up so it's near eye level. In an ideal world, you'd have a sloping writing surface or a sloping desk. That's not going to be available to most, if any of us, particularly if you're in a library or studying somewhere which is outside of your home environment and you have no control over it. But there are certain things that you can do to enable things to be a lot easier. Firstly, I recommend, for the reading aspect of it, using something like a laptop stand. These are all very affordable nowadays and widely available. And bringing your reading matter closer up to you. You'll see here, I've rested the book on a stand. Now, this is where it gets awkward, because if you try and balance a book on something, generally, it's gonna fall off. So my handy hint is what I use here. I have a bulldog clip. These are fantastic. Let me show you what I mean. This is a bulldog clip. This is great for holding the pages of your book in place. So we just clip that on like so. Or you can use an elastic band, a rubber band like this one here, and that can hold the pages in place as well. So we brought the book up, and just look what a difference it makes to my head, neck and shoulders here when I'm reading. Easy, huh? As opposed to without it, books all the way down there, and we have that tendency, whether we want to or not, to get drawn into what we're looking at. So the tendency over time is to find ourselves hunched over like this. And remember what we said about the weight of that head upon that neck and how much it increases. So really you want to be nicely balanced. I'm going to go into this later, so stick with us. I'll show you how to get that head and neck position just right. You want to be nicely balanced with your head and neck, and your reading material much closer to you. As for the writing material, try and keep that as close to you as well. So you can see here in this situation, the reading's nice and easy, and I've brought the writing material as close to me as possible too. So that writing is simply a case of this. Notice that the forearm here is about 90 degrees. I'm going to go into desks and chairs shortly. But this is so much easier to read and write here than this. Oh, it's making me ache just demonstrating it. And of course, you don't have to use a laptop riser. There are all sorts of document holders available very affordably from ergonomics companies like ours, which will enable you to bring your books, your sheets of paper, whatever it is, up to a much better height while you're studying, while you're reading, or while you're writing. With me so far? Okay, let's look at step 2, getting your seating and your desking just right too. I'm going to go sit over here, and for many of us, we're a little shorter than what classed as average. So here, I'm trying to read, I'm trying to write. Yes, the book's a bit closer to me, but look what's happening. I'm having to put contact stress here into my arms. We don't want to be doing that whilst writing and hunching forwards. Not ideal. So if that's you, you want to, if possible, raise your seat if it's raisable. Get a cushion or something to put it onto the seat. And if your feet aren't touching the floor, then use a footrest like this one here. This one's a nice comfy one. I use this without any shoes on because it's so soft and comfy. Now, it's not practical to take footrests to the library or to the lecture hall, wherever you are, but I'm pretty sure you can squeeze some sort of cushion into your bag if you find yourself being at a too low position for the desk. Look what's happening there to the arms, which is pushing up into the shoulders and leaving the neck in an unnatural position. What if you're the opposite? What if your desk is too low for you? So here you'll see the desk is way down there. I've no alternative but to pull down towards it and to lean forwards to write. See what's going on with the head and neck there again? I'm going to be the Hunchback of Notre Dame before I finish this video, I'll tell you. So it's really important that you get those heights too. If the desk is too low and you're working from home or in an office where you can make changes to that, do something to either raise the height of the desk. You can get little wedges that you put under the feet. Place something on top of the desk that raises your writing and your reading surface area, or if it's possible for you, lower the chair or get a lower chair. And really, again, you want to be aiming so that you've got this 90 degrees here for the arm in the elbow, and it makes it much more comfortable for you. Now watch what happens when I slump to this. So it's really important that you're sitting well and into the back of the seat. Here I'm going to slump. Notice, watch the elbow height here. Elbow drops below the level of the work surface. And if I sit up straight, if I sit up well, you'll notice that the elbow comes up to just above the level of the work surface there. About an inch or so is about ideal. So getting your posture right is really important. And how do you do that? Well, sitting down really makes a big difference to how that is. So here I'm going to fold my hips back to keep in a nice long position as we go into sitting, and then we're going to shuffle all the way to the back of the chair, which leaves the back really nice supported for that lumbar area, really nice and comfortable. And then we bring ourselves into the desk, into the table, and you'll notice then that posturally we're in a really good position. So all that remains again is to bring the reading surface up in height and the writing surface nice and close. Now let's move on to talking about what happens if you're writing or reading at long periods of time. How do we prevent that neck and shoulder pain during those long study sessions, during those long work sessions? 4 hours, 6 hours at a time isn't uncommon for many people, and it can be really uncomfortable, leaving you at the end of the day with excruciating neck, back and shoulder pain. So what do? Well, we need a strategy. We need to make sure, firstly, that we get regular breaks. This is the most important thing, really, in my eyes. Getting up and moving away from the surface and getting down again. Even if it's just standing up for a second and sitting down again, that's a massive change to how your body's been in that static position. And if you can't get up and move around, perhaps you feel embarrassed or you're not in a position where you can do so, well, then it's time to take some micro movements and some stretches. And one way to remind yourself is to use a timer. So you can get a Pomodoro timer like this little one here, which you can set to, here we could have 30 minutes and it would go off after 30 minutes and remind me that it's time to move. You can stick apps on your phone, you can have a stopwatch, you can have your watch remind you. There's all sorts of ways that you can do this. My experience is if you're in a position where you're autonomous and it's your space, is to use a timer but put it on the other side of the room. Because if you've got a timer popping up on a screen, the tendency can be to think, yeah, I hear you, but I'm just in the middle of this. And then before you know it, it's another 3 hours later, and guess what's going on? Now, your eyesight's really important in this too. The lighting of the room is really important. So you want to make sure that whatever you're reading and you're writing is well lit, because otherwise you're going to be pulling forwards to try to see better what you've got. If you need glasses or contact lenses, just wear them. It's going to make a massive difference to the amount of tension that you put into reading and writing, and whether or not you have to pull down and in and end up with all that going on, or whether you can sit back nicely whilst you're reading, whilst you're writing. And while we're talking about eyesight, my favorite is the 20-20-20 rule. Really easy to remember. Every 20 minutes or so, look away, 20 feet, 20 meters, 20 elephants, 20 whatever you want. Just look away for 20. Wonderful, for 20 seconds. 20 minutes, 20 feet or more, 20 seconds, 20, 20, 20. And as I mentioned before, switching positions. So if you're sat, he says falling over, if you're sat and you're not able to move and get out of your place, then have a good shuffle round, maybe look around you, peer out, see what they're doing over there. What are they up to? Anything that's just not sat in that static, sustained posture for a long period of time. Some of the main causes of these pains that we have are poor posture, static posture, long periods of time, contact stress that I was showing you there earlier with the forearm, repetition as well. And particularly if you're going to spend hours and hours doing the same thing, it's really important to get that movement. So look what happened there. I stood up, I sat down, it's got some movement into the muscles. It took less than a second. There's no reason why you can't do that too. But let's be clear, it's not just about taking breaks and having good posture. There are some really important mistakes that many people make. Let's have a look at them, see if you recognize any of these. Mistake number one, everything's too far away. Got to lean forward, pulling down into myself, and you can see what's going on with the head, neck and shoulders as a result. So you want to keep everything really nice and close to you. Mistake number two, you saw that as well, pulling down to read, pulling down to write. Neither of these are ideal. These are going to cause you those issues too. Next, might be a habit you learnt at school when you were tiny and the desks were really big. A lot of people, I find, shrug their shoulders up when they're writing, so their shoulders are up here so that they can write like this. See if you can let your shoulders drop. Notice the difference there from a shrug shoulder to a release shoulder. It's massive. Let your shoulders drop and be nice and open there. And again, then you've got that 90 degrees for the hand and arm, so that writing, this is how much effort it takes to write, and this is how much effort it takes to read. Anything else that's going in is surplus to requirements. You just don't need it. And here's one I intimated earlier, leaning your chin onto something, leaning your chin onto your wrist or your hand. It just pushes your neck into a really compromised position. You can see what's going on there. This, for periods of time, is really going to build up the pain. So make sure that you're taking the weight on your sitting bones here, rather than taking it into your head and neck through resting here. And if you're interested in how to sit really well and really comfortably, there's a link to a whole video on that in the description that can show you how to sit comfortably at your desk as well. Right, you're not going to be happy unless I show you some exercises. Everybody wants the exercises. I'm telling you that if you get things set up right in the first place, the exercises recede into not being so necessary. But some remedial ones that you can do are really easy. The first is the chin tuck. Now, I see people doing chin tucks like this and putting loads of effort in. You don't want to, it's going to end up hurting you over time. A chin tuck is basically undoing that tendency for that, and you're just pushing it the other way. So take a finger, place it on your chin, and just push your chin in gently, and you'll see that it helps to bring the neck back there into a much better position where your cranium is resting on it. So we're going to come to that in a minute. Hold fire, I'll get that to you shortly. Second one, really easy, is just nice little stretches like this, taking one ear down to the shoulder. If you want to make that stretch even stronger, you can place a hand on and you can tilt your head in as well. In fact, try that now wherever you are. You'll feel a real nice stretch going down there, down the neck and into the shoulder, giving that a nice stretch. We go for the other side as well. Nice little lean over, hand over, just a tiny bit of weight. You're not trying to rip your head off or anything like that. Do all of these stretches gently, and then leaning forwards again, and you get that nice little stretch through the shoulder there. There's the second one. Then my third, which is my favorite, I can't show you here because of the room I'm in, but we're going to pretend. It's time to pretend, is I'm leaning in a doorway. So my hand here and my hand here are leaning on the door, on the frame of the door. The door's open towards you, and all you do is you lean forward through the doorway, and you'll notice that that really helps bring the shoulders back, so that your scapulae here are being pulled nicely down and in, which is going to help bring your shoulders back and round like that, which is a great way of opening up and undoing that tendency for them to round forwards, because when we're reading and writing, we tend to round forwards. So you're going to undo that by putting yourself in the doorway and leaning through it for a few seconds, 10, 15, 20 seconds. Again, just gently, these are stretches. You're not trying to tear your shoulders out of their socket, and that's a really nice way. Every time you leave the desk, you might be going for a drink or you might be going through a toilet. Just lean through the doorway, and that's a really nice way of opening that one up for you. Right, I mentioned heads and necks. Now this is really important. Most people, when I do online workshops, when I do webinars, and I ask people to point to where their head balance is on their neck, they'll point to about here. And this is miles lower really than it needs to be. This is where your chin is, but your chin and jaw, they're just like another limb. So take 2 fingers and place one under each earlobe there, and you'll notice in there, if you nod ever so gently, have a little nod now. This video is brilliant, isn't it? I thought so, thanks. Tell me in the comments, like and subscribe, whatever it is you want to do, all of those sorts of things. Get that little nod in there and a little shake of the head. You don't want this video to finish, do you? I didn't think so. Little nod, little shake, and you're getting to find where that joint is here, where the cranium rests on top of the spine. And it's really high up, it's so much higher than most people think. So get used to that joint, and then if you want to look down further, perhaps you can't get your book high enough, then instead of pulling down from here, C6, C7, your cervical vertebrae, instead nod down by letting your chin or your nose drop slightly. So here if the nose drops slightly, you can see we're looking down here, quite nice, about 45 degrees, without having to pull the head and neck forward. So it's all about finding that subtle balance on there. And this has got to be easy as well. I'm not talking about this. If you're doing this, you're building up tension, you're going to compress all those spinal vertebrae. It's going to be really uncomfortable. So all we're doing is finding the balance on there, then dropping the nose ever so slightly, and you'll notice that then you're looking down without compromising your posture. Okay, I think you get it. Your posture's important, your environment's important, how you think, the breaks that you take, that's really important too. Managing yourself gently and with care to take regular breaks and regular movement. So let's recap all of those steps that we've been through today. Step 1, keeping your neck in a neutral position using a writing slope, using laptop stands or whatever it is to bring the book up to you. And if you can get a nice slope on your desk, then that's absolutely ideal. Step 2, adjusting your chair and desk so they're optimal to you. Make sure you sat right back in the chair, that your feet are supported on the floor or a footrest, or you won't have that support to hold yourself up nicely. Elbows at 90 degrees, desk height correct, chair height correct, back of the chair supporting you as well. If you're just on a stool, it is possible to sit up for longer periods of time if you're sitting up well, much more comfortably than if you're slumping. Everything's getting compressed and it's going to end up in pain. But if you haven't got a chair back to support you, then do take regular breaks away from it as well. Then we're going to avoid those common mistakes, having your stuff too far away, leaning in, leaning on, all of these things. Get it nice and close to you, get everything nice and close to you. Make sure that you're nice and upright. Make sure that you take those breaks. And finally, those simple exercises I showed you. Remember, there's the chin tuck, there's the neck stretches, there's giving your scapulae a nice pull down together. You can do that with or without a door. Getting up and out of the chair as often as you can. 20-20-20 for your eyes, giving your eyes a rest as well. Water in, water out, really important, going to keep you hydrated. I hope I've helped. Let me know in the comments. Let me know if it's useful to you or if there's anything else that you'd like to see. If it doesn't, you can always pop over to posturestars.com, where I have a quick assist photo assessment tool, and I'll give you feedback on how you're sitting and how your desk set up and all of that good stuff, really affordably and really quickly too. Cheerio.